June is Internet Safety Month here in the United States, and we are very honored today to present to you. Get ready, everybody. We've got Tim Nestor, Senior Director of Communications at the National Center on Sexual Exploitation in Washington, D.C. Good friends of the Warriors. I want to point out right at the top, endsexualexploitation.org. Tim, get ready because I'm going to hit you up with a couple of things. No, a lot of things actually. But we've got to get to the bottom of this Discord and of this Roblox because I have to tell you, Tim, when I mention it to parents or guardians or educators, they simply don't understand what I'm talking about. So, Tim Nestor, welcome to the Warriors.
Thank you so much for having me. And you're right. A lot of parents hear those things, Discord, Roblox, and these other platforms, and they think, oh, a place for my kid to play just online. Great. And that's where it ends. And you're right. There's so much more to it.
I want to point out that your colleague, Lynn, she broke the Dirty Dozen list a couple of weeks back, recently, right here on the Warriors. And that would be 12 entities that are showcased every year through the National Center on Sexual Exploitation that are promoting, not cleaning up, whether it's an app, whether it's a company. And this year we have a Discord and Roblox on that list. That website is dirtydozenlist.com. We are urging all of you to go there because you always ask what you can do to help us. This is the easiest thing. You check off the boxes, you hit the send. The center has done all the work for you, and you will feel very good about yourself because you have taken action to protect your children. So, Tim, let's start with Discord. What is it? Because I'm not kidding you when I say I will ask, oh, do you know, and even adults, do you know what Discord is? And they'll say to me, I think I heard of it, but I don't really know what it is. Tim, what is it?
Yeah, so Discord is a messaging platform made popular through mostly gaming circles where you can chat with friends via text or on voice chat while gaming. That's kind of how it started. And then companies started using it as a place for their developers and leadership even to communicate directly with fans and followers. And so it became a popular hub for all things gaming. And it's, of course, grown since then. Many companies outside of that world use it. Unfortunately, even though those are the kind of corporate pitches of overall what this tool does, it's also become a hotspot for these dangerous interactions and deep fakes. This platform is really popular with predators who are looking to groom kids and what we would describe as creeps who are looking to create, trade, or find sexually abusive content of children and unsuspecting adults. So it's got this really dark corner, and corner makes it sound small. It's bigger than they'd ever like to admit. It's got a really dark side to it that we want Discord to change. And now they've actually taken some steps, they've claimed, to clean it up a little bit, add some teen safety features. We've only seen it in writing. We've continued to test out these features and they do nothing, and none of it is on by default, and it's still a horrific place.
First of all, Tim, you're very nice because I call them criminals. But that is me because I think anything with children or trying to exploit children or trick children, to me, this is my opinion, that's criminal activity. Now, let me ask you something, Tim. Is there ever really any transparency with any of these sites? Because I feel like, they say, okay, we're going to do something, and then we never really know. There's never any proof or follow through. You would know better. Do they actually ever put out like stats, like how many they have on a team working on safety, what their team is comprised of? Or is it just they put out a PR statement and then it's up to parents and the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, up to you, all of us, then to check on everything? Because I'm like, everything, we make a little noise, they make a little noise, and then I'm always like, well, where's the follow-up? Do we know actually what these companies like safety teams? Because I imagine like 3 people sitting in a room at home, like eating, and that's it for millions and millions of followers. But what's your take on it?
I mean, I don't think you're far off. I think they've invested very little because they don't have much incentive to, which is one of the reasons why, and not to get us on a rabbit trail here, but Communications Decency Act Section 230 is also on the Dirty Dozen list because it's provided blanket immunity for these companies to never really feel incentivized because there's just never a fear of any legal action against them with what happens on their platform. They can always throw their hands up and say, hey, this isn't our content. This was someone else doing. So that is one reason why that is on the list as well. So Discord was part of the January hearing this past year, where they sat in front of Congress and these CEOs and leaders of these companies, TikTok, Meta, and Discord, among others. They were asked questions about this. What are you doing? What are you investing your money in? How are you protecting families and kids and the vulnerable? Now, they've said under oath that they defaulted blurring of sexually explicit imagery as of October of last year. This is what they said under oath. Our team has continued to test it, and we have found that as recently as last month, still not defaulted to blurring those sexually explicit images. So they're saying things, and yet when we go try them out, it's not happening. As far as accountability goes, that's what I think we're here to do, and that's what we want everyone who hears this message to do. We need to hold them accountable. The government still isn't. They still have immunity under the law, so we want to hold them accountable and hit them where it hurts. That's with their pocketbooks, and so we want people to take action. You mentioned the website, dirtydozenlist.com. They can go and communicate directly with that email that we provide directly with the executives at these companies and let them know, we're not happy, this is not okay, do something, or us and everyone we know will not be using your product. And that'll start to get their attention. I think that's the best way to turn the ship at this point.
Tim, I think it's the only way to turn the ship right now while we continue, pounding away at legislation. We know all of the red tape. And let me remind everybody, these are all bipartisan issues, things affecting kids and families and safety. I mean, it absolutely doesn't belong to any political party. These are human rights abuses. That is my opinion. And everybody needs to get on board. If there's anything today, Tim, people can all get on board on keeping kids safe. I want to just go back to this Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, because for me and the public, I don't want to make it too difficult, but let me play devil's advocate, Tim. If I was a big tech company, I'd be like, well, I don't have to adhere to anything because since 1996, I'm covered by this. Now, morally, that's a different story, but they have all the power. And it's dumped now into our hands to protect. So there is some happy news, though, Tim, that there is legislation pending with Section 230 to upgrade it, because a lot has happened since 1996. I mean, it's almost 30 years of all of this happening online, and a lot has changed. And we're in AI is what I want to say, artificial intelligence, even though nobody realizes it, we're already in it. But now, that being said, the best thing you pointed out is there is power in numbers. So everybody needs to go to dirtydozenlist.com. I was cheering, I have to say, when I saw this Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, because I think putting pressure for updated legislation with that, complete common sense. I mean, I don't know how anybody could be against that. But in the meantime, we have to still send into our legislators, urge our representatives, take action. We won't accept this. Have big tech held accountable. Let us get in now to this Roblox, because the only answer, Tim, I get about Roblox, because we do a lot of focus groups behind the scenes. Oh, my child, it's great. Creates gaming and is building things and this and that. And I'm like, did you ever sit down and do it with your child? Tim, I kid you not. I've never had one person say, yes, I sit there, I watch and do it with my child. So fill us in about Roblox, because this is another right on the top of the list popular, app.
Yeah, it is one of the most popular, and you're right in calling it an app. People consider it; they'll think of it as a game. It's more than that. It's a platform where you can create experiences. Many of them are game-like for kids and others to play or experience and talk to others online. But it really is a platform. And so I'm a dad, and I've got kids, and they love to game, and sometimes I love to game with them. It's a good time. We have a lot of fun. And they'll play things like Minecraft and Fortnite, all the popular stuff. The one in my house that we have, as of last year, said none of you are allowed to play here or anywhere else is Roblox. And here's why. I went onto Roblox, and I pretended to be an 11-year-old. I created an account as an 11-year-old boy with a made-up name. And I'm sure this won't happen to everyone every time they try this, but from my experience, I was immediately bombarded with direct messages from adults or people pretending to be kids, wanting to know what kind of games I like, what kind of experiences I like, where I live, like immediately asking me questions. And it was scary. Now, if I'm a kid doing this, and if you convince me online that you are another kid who just wants to play and learn about me, why wouldn't I extend that trust? If I'm 11 years old and my worldview has been pretty safe, everyone that I talk to is reliable and trustworthy and would never try to hurt me, I'm very vulnerable in that spot. And they also have very cartoony Lego-like appearances to the visuals in this platform. So it feels very safe. Parents reasonably assume that it is safe. Most of the users, I think it's 60 to 65%, are under the age of 16.
Wow.
So you would think, hey, this is incredibly safe, right? They're protecting people here, aren't they? And they have not defaulted to safety, as many platforms have, that leave children totally at risk for sexually explicit content, predatory behaviors, and instantly, you could even be a 5-year-old, create an account with an email address. It's that simple, and you could immediately jump into an experience where your character then gets sexually assaulted or worse. And it's horrific. It's horrific that this is allowed on Roblox. And they've even tried creating some dating type experiences, which it doesn't surprise me at all, but that's meant to be for 18 or 19 and above or something like that. So they've created some very strangely adult experiences on a platform that is clearly marketed to kids, and most of their user base are kids. And so there's been a number of stories of men specifically who have been able to target and groom underage kids, and in some cases even get them to meet in person. And there's some pretty horrific stories about what's happened. So again, as a dad, I see this and I see the appeal. I see why it feels safe. I've got one of my kiddos is 13. He loves to do programming, and he would love to be able to create his own games and movies. And this is a good platform for that. You can go and create, and you can really just decide what kind of experience to make. But he has to stay away from it because it's not a safe place for him to go. Just like I wouldn't send him to some strange, dangerous place far away from home. I'm not going to send him somewhere in our home online that I know is unsafe for him.
Okay, Tim, maybe you can clear this up for me. So that is something we're constantly teaching, that the internet, I try to make it very simple for people, what I know.
Yeah.
We're not judging kids. We're not judging parents. All of this is overwhelming. We're trying to educate and intervene and protect. That's what our jobs are. I try to say, okay, the internet, it's like opening your front door and welcoming the world in, and you would never allow that. So why would you allow, hand your child a device that most likely you bought and you pay for the internet and the router, and just allow the entire world, in front of your child? And then they kind of go, oh, okay, I'm getting it. Like I break it down, make it that simple for people.
Yeah.
Let me
I
ask
love
you
that.
something, because I don't know how to get through to people. So I came up with that one about a year ago.
Yeah.
We lock our front doors. Well, I
think
live
it's
in New
great.
York City. We double lock our front doors. Okay. But I have a theory, but that's another program, Tim, that it's like probably more dangerous in the suburbs, maybe, than New York City building. Again, for another program.
Yeah.
Well, how can we get at this age verification? There's been a lot of talk about this in the last couple of years. But how do we actually do that? Do you have a way that we can actually, I don't know, downloading government IDs and getting parents permission? But we know the kids are savvy and they're smart and they know how to get around all these kind of security things. The kids know how to buy burner phones, to find pin codes, pin numbers. How
Right.
would that age verification even work? I never get a clear answer on that.
Yeah, that's a really complex one. And I don't know if you've been aware, many states have had that brought to the floor with varying levels of
Yes.
success and progress. One of the things that I truly believe, and I'm not trying to avoid the age verification question, it's a good one, is I believe that if we hold these corporate companies accountable through things like amending or removing Section 230, now that no longer becomes a parent's issue or National
Right.
Center on Sexploitation issue for us to solve, or even politicians' issue to solve. It becomes the corporation's issue to solve. Roblox as a company now has to solve it. Meta has to solve it because they're now legally held to account for what happens on these platforms. I think that's truly where it starts. They've got the technology. They can implement whatever verification methods they need to ensure that you are who you say you are the age that you say you are. They just choose not to do it because why? You make less money doing it that way. It's much more lucrative to allow anyone to get on there and do almost whatever they want, which is what we see in Discord, of course, one of the darkest corners. And some of the other targets we have, like Telegram, which has been called the dark web of messaging. And so we have these platforms that are making a ton of money because people are looking for any way they can to dodge accountability, to stay hidden. And we all know why they're doing this. It's not just for privacy, and that's used a lot of times as an excuse. The reason age verification is so complex and the reason these companies have to really protect their users is because of privacy concerns.
Right.
And we would argue that it's more for profit, and we think people are more valuable than profit. And there's so much more these companies can do. Just one quick example. A few years ago, the pornography company Pornhub was all of a sudden under fire for having all these non-consensual and potentially underage videos on their website. And as soon as that hit the public spotlight, I think it was, I might be misremembering, I want to say it was nearly 10 million pieces of content disappeared from their site. I'm talking.
It was 10 million, I remember.
Yeah. Was it 10 million? Yeah, overnight. So you've probably discussed this already. That to me tells me immediately these companies know what's on their platform. They know how to remove it, but it makes them money. It's so lucrative for them to create a place where people can create, share, disseminate, and sell this content. And I think that's true of Discord. I think that's true of Roblox, one of the only places where you can allow adults, as you would put it, maybe in some cases criminals, others who are maybe aspiring criminals, to do things they shouldn't be allowed to do in any other space. And Roblox is one example of a place they're allowed to do that. So I know that's a long, meandering way of saying,
no, not at all.
I think age verification, there's some elements of that are super important and absolutely should be passed. But there's also the accountability to the corporations that I think that's where the biggest onus should be, is on these corporations to keep it safe for the kids. It's the same thing with like our parks. I take our kids over to the park to play. And yes, it's on me as the parent to make sure I get them to the park. I keep an eye on them while they're playing. I make sure that no one's getting hurt, or my kids aren't picking on other kids, right? I need to parent. But ultimately, it's not up to me to make sure that the monkey bars are correctly attached or that the slide has been put together properly. That's not on me. That's on the city who put the park together and who created it. And so it's the same thing with these platforms. They are responsible for creating a safe environment, which some of them have done better jobs than others. And some clearly, the way they're investing their money, don't care at all. And we want to call them to account for that. And we think parents and families are where that can start. When a company sees that parents and their kids are no longer interested or allowed to use their platform, that's when they start to feel it in their pocketbooks a little bit.
Okay, well, first of all, Tim, with your approval, I'm stealing your playground story because I like that. It's like my open door. If you're okay with that, I'm totally taking it.
I actually just thought of it. I saw my wife walk by my office window. She's taken our two youngest. They've been doing, sorry, this is a rabbit trail. They've been doing.
I want to hear it. Are they going to the park?
They're going to the park. She's been doing a different park in our city every day with our two youngest. And so they're heading over to an Alice in Wonderland theme park right now that they have down the street. So yeah. So anyway.
Well, I love that. And I love that kind of analogy. And we have to remind, everybody out there that school is coming to a close, mm-hmm. and the kids will have more time on their hands, and that means more screen time. So it is a perfect time of year to make the commitment in your home and also your community. When I say community, I mean other family members, friends, community members, because our hashtag is community creates change. I firmly believe it's at a grassroots level to implement all of this. Mm-hmm. And you know what, Tim, I'm finishing up a newsletter right now, and it's all about, school's out, get the kids back into the parks, into art, into music, because that's therapeutic, nature. So I love your story. I'm stealing it, but people do say to me, why is this allowed? You pointed out, it's just about money. There is so much money to be made, and hitting these companies, as you point out, in the wallet, in the pocketbook, whatever you want to call it, I think is the only way. I want more people to step up, though, dirtydozenlist.com, everybody, and take action. Because again, the more parents, family members, that say, hey, enough, we don't want this, protect our children, it affects their bottom line, they will, I think, sit up and start to take notice. And it's been proven. From Dirty Dozen List has been around now for, I don't know, maybe 11 years now. I think it's about 11 years now. 2013 it was started. Right. And it's very powerful. And I say it's the one take action. I truly mean this, Tim. That is easy and makes all the difference with these companies. Do you want to go through any other companies on that list?
Oh, let's see. I mean, we've got some that we actually have some good news about. For example, Apple.
Give us some good news.
Yeah, let's talk good news. Apple. Now, we still want Apple to do a lot more. They're one of the biggest companies in the world. Their resources are seemingly endless. There's always more they can do. But we at least need to celebrate when there's a step forward. So they were hosting all kinds of these really scary Nudify apps on their platform, on their app
Yeah.
store, where basically anyone could download the app and use it to take a picture of anyone else out there and use AI and some other technology to create a naked version of that person or that picture. And of course, that was being used to create CSAM, or child sexual abuse material. So Apple, as soon as we notified them of these, they removed everyone that we sent to them immediately. They were gone.
Good.
So we were really happy to see them react that way. We do believe that we've got a good rapport with Apple. I mean, I use Apple products. I don't know about you. I love Apple products, but I
I
want it to
have
be
all
safe.
Apple products. Yeah.
Yeah, I want it to be safe. I want to know that when you go to the App Store, their app ratings are appropriate. It's the same thing when my kiddo brings over their game system and says, "Hey, can I download this game?" What's the first place that I look? I look at the rating, and I want to see, is this rated E for everyone, or is it rated T for teen? Then maybe I want to look at it. If it's rated M for mature, it's probably an automatic no. I can't think of a scenario where it'd be a yes. And so we want to see good app ratings, and Apple's made some good changes there, but we still want them to do more. Another one is that Instagram, again, Meta has a lot of work to do, but we were happy to see that they're implementing this feature where it will automatically blur explicit images that are sent to or from minors under age 18. Now, this was several weeks ago. They announced this. I'm sure you're very aware of it, but it was a huge improvement. It was something that previously, I think it was up to age 15 this was happening, and we couldn't understand why is it okay for 16 and 17-year-olds to exchange these photos? Why is that okay? So it was nice to see them implement that. It was a direct request that we also were pushing. So we want to make sure we thank all of anyone who's listening or watching who also took part in contacting Meta. We thank you for being part of that movement. I think it made a big difference there. So it's always good to highlight some wins. You already talked about the potential push to make a change to 230 this year. It's something that we're very excited about. You probably are going to start seeing the hashtag sunset 230 over the next few weeks and months, as we are going to be really trying to build momentum behind that, as we want to see 230 amended or removed in some way, shape, or form to stop protecting these companies. And so that's a huge move. And we don't want to miss, though, this great new piece of legislation that's coming through called KOSA, the Kids Online Safety Act, which will turn on all these safety features that these companies do have, many of them, or they could easily have, and have them on by default. They should just be on by default. And then if you decide, I don't need that protection as an adult, you go in and turn them off. That's your prerogative. But kids should be protected by default. And so those are the types of things that we think are exciting, that we're very hopeful for the rest of this year. And like you mentioned already, dirtydozenlist.com is a great place to learn more about all of those things. Quick, easy actions. I'm talking 20 seconds or less of your day to quickly shoot off an email or sign a petition that's already written out for you.
Tim, it takes 5 minutes to do the whole thing. If you
To
can
do all of
speed
them.
read,
Yeah.
well, you have to do all of them. I make everybody
Yeah.
do all of them. They can't
I
just
love
pick
it.
one or two. I'm like, no, because it takes 5 minutes. You speed read. If
Yeah,
it's
I
on
love
the
it.
Dirty Dozen list, you already know without even researching from the National
Right.
Center on Sexual Exploitation. This is well vetted. This is well researched. This is what you have to do. So dirtydozenlist.com. Let me ask you, there's a recent markup on KOSA, Kids Online Safety Act, again, a bipartisan piece of legislation. I know it's right there, ready to go. Any news you can share about it? Well, I know it's only Monday. Anything happening? Because everybody I know is kind of waiting. Every kind of group,
Yeah.
organization, advocate wants this. And I
It's
don't
so
know the holdup.
close.
It's
Yeah.
just like up on the edge there.
It's
And I'm
so
waiting for somebody
close.
to push it
Yeah.
over.
I think we're getting closer. And I think the more that representatives hear from their constituents, the more likely it is to get through. But I'll tell you what, there's so many code sponsors for this.
Yes,
I think
70.
it's close. It's overwhelming. It's veto proof in that sense. So it's very close. We have had a lot of discussions about this internally. We're hopeful for a great announcement in the very near future. But yeah, nothing to announce quite yet. But boy, that's an exciting one that we are very hopeful for.
I'm waiting every day, and I guess I will have to go and knock on my Senator Chuck Schumer's door once
right.
again, because
right.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Let's get into on that list. Also, we have Cash App, Cloudflare, LinkedIn. We've got GitHub, Reddit, Spotify, and Telegram. Again, dirtydozenlist.com. Most important that everybody talk to their kids open and honestly. Look at these platforms before you allow your child, your teen, to just go on them, take the time. Everybody has a couple of minutes a day. This is about our precious children. Tim, let's talk about something very exciting coming up August 5th in Washington, D.C. Please tell us about the End Exploitation Summit.
Yeah, so our summit is coming up in August, which we're super excited about. We haven't been able to meet in person since 2019. We know we're not alone in that. A lot of organizations and events had to put all that on pause during the COVID pandemic. And then we just didn't get the chance to gather back in person until this year. So August 5th through 8th in Washington, D.C., our Coalition to End Sexual Exploitation Global Summit will be held. It's so exciting. Our theme this year is The Great Collision, Emerging Tech, Sexual Exploitation, and the Ongoing Pursuit of Dignity. We have an exciting roster of speakers. I encourage you to go to endexploitationsummit.org, and you can see the list of speakers, the schedule, the experience you can expect. You can also go to that website or to YouTube and follow us on YouTube to see some of our old presentations, to get an idea of the flavor of what are some of the presenters like, what have some of the talks been like. But we've had so many exciting things happen at and during, some things planned, some things not, these summits, where it'll be maybe a new piece of legislation or maybe a major corporate advocacy win that comes through, and finally we have protection. We've had those things happen in years past, so I'm excited to see what happens at this one. And it's a great place to network as well, get involved with others in the movement who want to defend human dignity. And it's just really exciting. I'm very excited for this coming up in August.
Well, there's nothing. I hope to be there. I actually hope to be a moderator. I put that out there on a panel because, all of this sexualization, Tim, as you know, as the center knows, is, just being normalized, and people are becoming habituated to kind of, this is just the way it is. They're not even recognizing whether it's, online. Look, we live in a digital world. It's not going away. So we want to leverage the internet for good. And we want to be the educators for our kids out there, our family members, to keep them safe, keep all of us safe. But also, whether it's entertainment, music, streaming shows, cartoons, very sexual in content. So everybody's kind of habituated. But getting back to the summit, I believe great work is done in person. Now, we couldn't help what happened over the last few years. Leave that aside for a minute. But that's really where people get the work done, when you're able to really meet, or those people you've been on Zoom with for the last 5 years, 4 years, you meet them in person, is something so exciting. So we're urging everybody's welcome to this. EndExploitationSummit.com, August 5th through 8th in Washington, D.C. Washington, there's a lot to do there. It's going to be a great event, and you're going to learn about technology because, Tim, we don't want people afraid. I have a lot of people say, I didn't grow up with technology. Well, I didn't grow up with technology, but I make it happen. I feel lucky my children are in their 30s, so they just kind of missed this, being inundated with all of this. But I think it's a very exciting time, actually, Tim, because more people are waking up. If anything good came out of the C period, the COVID period, I say, is that actually parents kind of woke up like, oh, is this what the kids are doing online?
That's true.
Oh, they saw a lot of, we have to talk about it, porn coming through, government issued Chromebooks kind of thing. Friends of mine, mom went to wash the dishes, came back, and little Susie, there was porn on her math. So it kind of woke up the masses. It got a lot more parents involved. I think it's a very exciting time. I think finally Section 230 will be addressed. And we have to thank the National Center on Sexual Exploitation for always wanting to put human dignity, over profit, educating. I mean, this daily, the daily, the Dirty Dozen list. I'm going to say the daily Dirty Dozen list, but that would be too much. But we should have one actually.
Every day. Yeah.
Every day. But we just repeat this over and over again and get these entities out there for people to take action.
Can I just say, I agree so much with what you're saying, where you're talking about how it can be intimidating, it can be scary, we didn't grow up with it. Tech seems to change. Right when I feel like I've got my head wrapped around it, there's a new thing, a new platform, a new service,
every
a new device. There's some new thing. And that's why part of the theme is emerging tech. We want you to leave this summit being equipped and not scared of, but understanding of and knowing how you can combat the negative sides of emerging tech, because there's so much good with emerging tech. I am a tech head. I love new tech. I think some things with AI are fascinating and interesting. A lot of it is scary and unknown, and I totally get that. And I'm not saying we're going to answer and solve everything altogether, but I think we're going to take some great steps forward together specifically around the areas of defending human dignity in the areas of sexual exploitation, emerging tech can be part of that. It can be a tool that we use to protect people even further and to make more efficient the way we can identify these bad actors and remove their access to the vulnerable. And so I think focusing on emerging tech is not to say, here's all the ways that it's bad. Anyone can do that. We're here to say, here's the things to look out for. Here's some ways to protect yourself. And here's how we want to harness it for good. And that's the way that I want us to look at it too. How can we use these amazing tools that are coming out and turn the tide of all the negative that's happening with them into something good? And I do think it's possible. We have to do it together. That's where a summit like this, to your point, together in person makes all the difference. I'm absolutely with you. I love working with my team remotely. It's wonderful. I love doing conversations like this over a screen. It's wonderful, but nothing beats sitting in a room with someone, looking them in the eye, breaking bread together, having long, in-depth discussions about these things. I think it's marvelous. So I'm very much looking forward to this. If this appeals to you listening or watching at all, don't miss out on it. I think this is going to be our best one yet. And we've had some great ones.
No, it is going to be the place to be. I will make sure the Warriors, we're promoting it far and wide, starting in today's newsletter that's going out. I just want to say, though, Tim, we also have to always remember we got to have a few laughs once in a while, because a lot of these subjects are so heavy.
That's right.
I mean, appropriate laughs over some things. And it's all so heavy, the environment. But I like your messaging of let's stay on the side of what is exciting, what is good, what we can take from it and grow from, because we want to engage, educate, and empower each other and our kids. We want our kids. We don't want them. Look, the predators, it is true, the studies show they're always 10 steps ahead of everybody. Mm-hmm. So we've got to be the ones that empower the kids to say no, right? We have to be in charge. Why let those people, I call them criminals. I know you don't, because you're too nice. But why we're not giving the power away. So this is all, I find it all very exciting. And Tim Nestor, give us some final words. Any final words for us before I let you go?
I will just say I had a good chat with my 17-year-old son the other day about all the topics. And I even told him, I said, I had two choices, because he's almost an independent adult living out on his own. Might be a couple of years till he totally moves out. We'll see. But we had a great talk about this. And he's very aware of these issues that are happening. And he's very tech-minded. And he feels equipped to handle some of the weird things that'll come his way as he's online. And I told him, we get two choices. One, we go off the grid. We go up to the mountains and live off the land, and we keep you all away from all this stuff. Or it's almost impossible to do that, of course. Or we give you the tools that you need as kids at each phase of life to guide your way, to make your way through this very difficult environment that they're in now. So I just want to encourage any parents that are listening or watching too. It is possible. And it really does start with an open conversation with your kids. They want to be protected too. And them hearing that you're not trying to stop them from having fun, you just want them to be safe as they have fun and as they experience these new things. I think they're going to be on your side. It's not always going to be an easy conversation, but man, it is important to get started on that foot.
Tim, I'm so glad you brought that up. I didn't want to ask you like the ages of your children, but 17-year-old, that is encouraging. And, we don't want to we want these, the way I look at it, family partnerships. Mm-hmm. It's not them, versus them, us versus them, because we again do focus groups behind the scenes, they want to be included in everything and help make decisions and help come up with plans. And again, June is Internet Safety Month out there, Warriors. And so this is a perfect time to set your plan for summer 2024, starting right now with this conversation with Tim Nestor from the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. Also, we've got the summit coming up. You've also got the Dirty Dozen list. You got a lot of things, Warriors. We're doing all the work for you, so you have no excuse. Tim, I'm so happy that you joined me today and shared all of this information. Excellent work being done at the center. I look forward to meeting you at the summit in August. I will be there with my Warrior bells on to meet everybody and see everybody. It'll be great to be in person. The website again is endsexualexploitation.org. Thank you, Tim. I'm going to say to you today, you are our Dirty Dozen list warrior.
Thank you.
Thanks,
privilege.
Tim.
Appreciate it.
And I hope we get to talk again soon, because there's a lot of issues coming down the pike that we need to keep everybody aware of.
I would love it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.